A federal judge just delivered a major blow to Pam Bondi's Department of Justice. 147 pages. I read them twice. According to court documents filed Wednesday, 11 senior DOJ officials are serving illegally. Not improperly, not questionably, illegally. The judge ruled they violated the Federal Vacancies Reform Act. Plain language, black and white. What does that mean? Every decision they made, every memo they signed, every prosecution they approved is potentially void. We're talking $340 million in enforcement actions, 23 active prosecutions for national security cases, all hanging by a thread. Bondi's team says it's fine. The judge says different. Quick context: Pam Bondi, Attorney General since January 2025, former Florida AG, Trump loyalist. The issue? She staffed her department fast. Too fast. According to this ruling, when she took over, she needed people. Experienced DOJ attorneys were leaving, some quit, some got pushed. Either way, gaps were everywhere. Her solution? Bring in outsiders, political allies, people she trusted. The problem? Many of those positions require Senate confirmation or, at minimum, compliance with the Vacancies Act specific rules about who can serve, for how long, and under what authority. Timeline: fast version: weeks after confirmation, Bondi installs acting officials across 11 divisions: criminal, civil rights, national security, antitrust. By summer, complaints start. Senators ask questions. Career officials raise concerns internally. By winter, lawsuits are filed: advocacy groups, state AGs, and one former DOJ inspector. This week, Judge Eleanor Vasquez of the D.C. District Court issues her ruling, and it's devastating. She didn't split the baby, didn't hedge. She said 11 officials are serving without legal authority. That's the setup. Now, the documents. The evidence first document filed Wednesday, I pulled page 34. It reads, the appointments at issue violate the express limitations of 5 U.S.C. Section 3345, which Congress enacted specifically to prevent the circumvention of its constitutional advice and consent function. That's not my take. That's the ruling. What it means: Bondi's team broke federal law designed to protect Senate confirmation powers. But here's what got me. Page 71, different section. Judge Vasquez lists each official by name, their prior position, their current role, and the legal deficiency. 11 names. Some you've heard of, some you haven't. One stood out: Deputy AG for the Criminal Division, in that role since April 2025. Previously a lobbyist for a defense contractor. No Senate confirmation, no prior DOJ experience, making decisions on federal prosecutions. Put those together. Yeah. This is structural failure. I went through this ruling 4 times. The pattern is clear: officials with no federal law enforcement background, serving beyond the 210-day Vacancies Act limit, making binding decisions on active cases. All documented. What nobody's covering: page 89, paragraph 31, Judge Vasquez identifies what she calls ratification doctrine evasion. Basically, officials signing off on actions that should require Senate-confirmed authority, then claiming those actions were ratified by the AG herself. Except Bondi wasn't reviewing most of them. The filings show she was traveling, speaking, doing media. 73 enforcement decisions. 12 weeks. Bondi's calendar shows she was physically present at DOJ for 14 of those days. Read that again. That changes this. It's not just illegal appointments. It's a ghost chain of command. The ruling includes exhibits. Exhibit C, internal DOJ emails, 27 messages between senior staff discussing coverage for the AG's signature. One reads, need PB's initials, but she's in Tampa. Can we do delegated sign-off? Response, just put acting. Same effect. That's the problem. It's not the same effect, not legally. Official filings reveal these delegated authority decisions included a $127 million settlement with a pharmaceutical company charging decisions in 3 January 6th related cases, a civil rights enforcement action against a major police department national security designations, involving foreign surveillance, all signed by officials the court now says had no legal power to sign anything. The fallout defense attorneys are already filing motions, at least 8 so far, according to court records. Corporate defendants are demanding renegotiation of settlements. And one January 6th conviction, already on appeal, just got a new argument within 72 hours. That's just the first layer. The other side got to be fair here. The other side has a few actually. DOJ defenders say this ruling is judicial overreach, a single district judge trying to dismantle executive branch staffing. And honestly, some of it holds up. Their argument: first, the Vacancies Act has gray areas. Courts have interpreted it differently. Reasonable legal minds disagree on what triggers the 210-day limit, especially for positions that technically have an underlying Senate-confirmed official. Second, this is how modern administrations operate. Obama did it. Trump's first term did it. Biden did it. Acting officials everywhere. If this ruling stands, it invalidates precedents from multiple administrations. Matt Whitaker, former acting attorney general under Trump, put it this way: every administration staffs up with acting officials. This judge is criminalizing normal executive function. Don't agree with all of it, but that's not nothing. What they've got: the Supreme Court has never directly ruled on many of these Vacancies Act questions. Previous DOJ Inspector General reports flagged similar issues under past AGs without legal consequence. Several named officials have credentials, former state prosecutors, federal agency veterans. Even Jonathan Turley, constitutional law professor at George Washington University, admits the ruling is aggressive. Courts usually give the executive benefit of the doubt on staffing. Both sides, honestly, I'm not here to tell you who's right. Critics' interpretation: Bondi's team systematically evaded confirmation requirements and signed off on binding federal actions without legal authority. Evidence supports it. Defenders' interpretation: she worked with what she had, filled gaps quickly, and this is a policy dispute dressed up as law. Evidence there, too. Both can be true. That's what makes this complicated. Bondi inherited a department in turmoil, mass resignations, a politicized environment, hard to staff under any conditions. Harder when careers are on the line for joining a controversial administration. There's also the political timing question. This ruling comes from a judge appointed by Obama in Washington, D.C., 6 months before midterms. Is that relevant? Depends who you ask. Conservatives say this is lawfare, another attempt to kneecap a Trump administration through the courts. Progressives say the law is the law, regardless of who enforces it. Both have a point. Both are oversimplifying. What I can tell you is what the documents show, and they show Bondi's DOJ made binding legal decisions through officials who lacked authority to make them. Whether that was intentional, malicious, or just sloppy is a different question. But the ruling doesn't care about intent. It cares about law. And on that, Judge Vasquez was clear. How we got here. Months before confirmation, Bondi faced tough questions about her management style. Senators asked about staffing plans. She gave vague answers. Weeks after taking office, the first wave of departures, career officials citing concerns about direction. Some leaked to the press, others just left. Same period, Bondi announces a reorganization, consolidates divisions, creates new special counsel positions that didn't exist before. One person said on record, "This is not how you run a law enforcement agency. You're building a parallel structure." That was a former deputy AG, career official, 31 years at DOJ. What happened? Ignored. The pattern: bring in loyalists without proper process. Assign them authority beyond their legal mandate. Paper over gaps with delegated authority memos. Every time, they got away with it until Wednesday. What finally triggered this? A lawsuit filed by citizens for responsibility and ethics in Washington, joined by 2 state attorneys general, later joined by the former DOJ Inspector General. That's not a partisan hit squad. That's a coalition with legal standing and institutional credibility. Judge Vasquez didn't take this case because she wanted to. She took it because the law required her to. And once she looked at the evidence, 74 pages of internal documents, 53 depositions, 13 expert declarations, she couldn't look away. Wednesday, 2:47 p.m. Eastern. What happened? Judge Vasquez issued her ruling. 147 pages. Posted to Pacer. The appointments at issue are unlawful. The actions taken by these officials lack legal force. What followed? DOJ filed an emergency stay motion within 4 hours. The White House released a statement calling the ruling radical judicial activism. 3 separate congressional committees announced hearings. 11 hours. That fast. What everyone missed. While people focused on the headline, Bondi's team is illegal, something else happened. Page 141, the remedies section. Judge Vasquez didn't just say the appointments were bad. She ordered DOJ to produce a list of every decision made by these 11 officials, every memo, every enforcement action, every prosecution referral. Full accounting. Within 21 days. Then she ordered something else. Any party affected by those decisions can petition for reconsideration, settlements, convictions, investigations. That's the legal earthquake. And she gave the government a choice. Either replace these officials with properly appointed ones, meaning Senate confirmation or lawful acting designation, or suspend their functions entirely. Bondi's response press conference. This ruling will not stand. We're appealing immediately. It wasn't defensive, it was calculated. You can see it in the timing. The statement was drafted before the ruling dropped. DOJ knew it was coming. They had lawyers ready, talking points distributed. But here's the tell. Bondi didn't address the substance. Didn't explain why the appointments were legal. Didn't cite the statutes. She attacked the judge, an Obama-appointed activist trying to overturn an election. That's not a legal defense. That's a political play. What experts are saying, former Assistant Attorney General, 14 years at DOJ under 3 administrations. This is the most significant Vacancies Act ruling in modern history. It's not close. Judges don't do this unless the violation is obvious and egregious. Former Solicitor General under Bush, the ruling is legally sound. Whether it survives appeal is different from whether it's correct. Key point there, even conservative legal minds aren't saying she's wrong on the law. They're saying appeals courts might save Bondi. A former counsel to the Trump White House admitted, the factual record here is brutal. If DOJ can't explain why these officials had authority, they lose on appeal, too. When both sides agree, pay attention. I also spoke with an attorney who specializes in Vacancies Act litigation, 23 years of practice. He said, people misunderstand this law. It's not optional. Congress wrote it specifically because executives kept doing what Bondi did. He walked me through it. The Vacancies Act says if a Senate-confirmed position becomes vacant, you can fill it temporarily, but only under specific conditions, only for 210 days, only with people who meet certain criteria. According to the ruling, 7 officials exceeded the 210-day limit for never met baseline qualifications. 3 held positions that legally cannot have acting designations at all. The consensus from professionals, the law is clear, DOJ violated it. The only question is whether courts enforce it. Why this affects you. Money. If you've interacted with any federal enforcement action in the past year, pay attention. Settlements negotiated under these officials are potentially voidable. Did your company pay a fine to the DOJ? You might have a claim. The numbers. $340 million in enforcement actions are now in question. That's not theoretical. That's money companies already paid or agreed to pay that might get returned. If you're a shareholder in any company that settled with DOJ recently, watch for announcements. Stock volatility is incoming. Precedent. This sets a precedent. Next time you deal with any federal agency, the rules have changed. Say you get audited, investigated, or charged. The official handling your case, you now have grounds to challenge their authority. Was their appointment legal? Did they exceed time limits? Were proper procedures followed? That's a defense that didn't exist last week. Now it does. Who's affected right now? 23 active prosecutions touched by these officials. 8 defense motions already filed, more coming at least January 4th, 6th cases, involve decisions made by named officials. Those defendants now have constitutional due process arguments, the $127 million pharmaceutical settlement. The company has already announced they're reviewing options. That's corporate speak for, We're challenging this the uncomfortable part. If Bondi's appointments were illegal, some people prosecuted under her DOJ might have valid claims. Not saying they're innocent, saying the government has to follow its own rules. When it doesn't, the consequences extend even to people we think are guilty. If you believe in the rule of law, you have to accept that, even when it benefits people you disagree with. How Bondi made it worse. Thursday morning press conference, full cameras. This judge is trying to do what voters rejected. It's election interference through the judiciary. Didn't address the law. Didn't explain the appointments. Just attacked. Press coverage shifted from legal ruling to political fight. Polling shows 58% of Republicans now see this as a partisan attack. Mission accomplished depends on your goal. If the goal was legal defense, failed. If the goal was political framing, working. Senate Democrats came back hard. Chuck Schumer, the Attorney General, just admitted she can't defend these appointments on the merits. That's why she's attacking the judge. Thursday afternoon, DOJ filed its emergency stay motion, 47 pages. Argued irreparable harm. Said complying with the ruling would paralyze law enforcement nationwide. Judge Vasquez responded within hours. Stay denied. Ruling stands pending appeal. Now it goes to the D.C. Circuit. What's still unclear? One, will the D.C. Circuit grant an emergency stay while the appeal proceeds? If yes, Bondi's team stays in place during litigation. If no, chaos. Two, what happens to the 23 active prosecutions? Do they continue, get paused, or get dismissed? What's coming? Monday, March 24th, D.C. Circuit oral arguments. Fast-tracked emergency calendar, Wednesday, March 26th. Senate Judiciary Committee, hearing announced April 9th, DOJ disclosure deadline. Full list of affected decisions must be produced, not public yet. White House internal discussions about whether to invoke executive privilege over internal staffing documents. If they do, another constitutional showdown. 2 of the 11 named officials are reportedly considering resignation. Sources inside DOJ told multiple outlets they're exploring options. If they leave voluntarily, it changes the legal posture, but it also looks like an admission. Either way, something breaks by midweek. Where we are right now, Judge Vasquez ruling stands. 11 officials declared unlawful emergency stay denied. DOJ must comply pending appeal. D.C. Circuit appeal filed. Argument Monday. 21-day deadline running. April 9th for full disclosure. 8 defense motions already filed. 2 officials reportedly considering resignation. Congressional Republicans are demanding DOJ ignore the ruling, calling it lawfare. Congressional Democrats are demanding Bondi's resignation, calling it lawbreaking. The White House hasn't said whether it still has full confidence in the AG. That silence speaks volumes. When presidents support their cabinet members, they say so loudly, immediately. We're at 48 hours. Nothing from the Oval Office. Final word: Pam Bondi is still Attorney General for now. Surface read: political fight, Democrats versus a Trump appointee, partisan warfare. But the documents don't lie. 11 officials. No legal authority. Hundreds of decisions potentially void. I'll be watching Monday's argument. That's the next inflection point. If the D.C. Circuit grants the stay, Bondi survives to fight another day. The appeal plays out over months. She stays in power during the process. If they deny it, the pressure becomes unbearable. Either officials step down, DOJ grinds to a halt, or someone makes a deal. The story's not over. It's still developing. What I can tell you, this isn't going away. Even if Bondi wins on appeal, the disclosure deadline stands. That list of affected decisions is coming. And when it does, we'll learn exactly how deep this goes.